Hi, welcome to NSDEE's Create TNSX Configuration Tool video. NSDEE can build applications for both TNSE and TNSX systems. NSDEE helps customers having applications on their TNSE systems to configure the same application for TNSX. This is where our tool Create TNSX Configuration fits in. Create TNSX Configurations tool creates a TNSX configuration for each of the TNSE configurations in a project. The TNSX configuration that has been created will contain all the tools and settings of the TNSE configuration that has been customized to the TNSX configuration. You can invoke the tool by right-clicking the project and selecting Create TNSX Configurations tool. Or you can select the project, then go to Project and click on Create TNSX Configuration. Note that this tool is supported only for managed projects. Here I have a project Hello World which contains some TNSE configurations. Before invoking the tool to create TNSX configurations for it, let's have a look at the properties that is set in the TNSE configuration. For the debug configuration, you can see that the environment variables point to the appropriate cross-compiler location. Let's have a look at the settings page with its tools and options. The deploy target file code is 800, which is the value for a TNSE executable. Let's have a look at the remote settings page and the tools location page. Now we can invoke the tool. But before invoking the tool, we should take care that our TNSX cross-compilers and linkers are configured and ready to use. Now let's invoke the tool Create TNSX Configurations. The configurations have been created, but it has thrown a warning. Let's have a look at what this is by clicking on the link. It says that the project's linker accesses some libraries or other objects. Let's go and have a look there. However, sometimes this error is shown even if it's not applicable. This is an issue which we are hoping to resolve soon. Till then, please ignore this warning if not applicable. Right now, let's just go have a look at this to see if it's a valid issue. Here, we are in debug configuration. Let's have a look at the TNSX configuration that has been created for this debug configuration. Here we can see that it has created a TNSX configuration with the configuration name underscore TNSX for each of the TNSE configurations that we have in the project. Since we know how the properties looked in debug configuration, let's have a look at the properties set in the debug underscore TNSX configuration. The tools location points to the TNSX tools. The deploy target file code has been updated to 500, which is the file code for a TNSX executable. You can see the tool options are customized for TNSX. All the -w ELD options have been converted to -w XLD options. This is the reason that the tool had warned us. Here, the other object still points to a TNSE object we had added in the debug configuration. Let's update it to point to foox.o, which is a TNSX object. No change in the options for C++ compiler. The remote settings are the same as the ones set for TNSE configuration. You should update this information to point to the TNSX system. I need this information only during deploy, so I will ignore updating this now. The environment variables have been updated to point to the TNSX cross-compiler locations. Let's have a look at the build configurations for Hello World project. You can see that for each of the TNSC build configuration, debug, and release, the tools has created a respective TNSX configuration with the suffix of _TNSX. Also note that the default or active configuration still continues to be debug. Now let's try and build debug_TNSX configuration. The build is successful, and the TNSX executable has been created under debug_TNSX folder. This tool can also be invoked as part of the import tool of ETK or NSDEE2.x. Let's bring up the import ETK tool for example. I just need the COBOL project, so let me unselect the other one. Here, you need to select the option Create TNSX configurations while importing the project. This invokes the tool and it adds TNSX configurations along with the existing TNSC configurations in the project. The project has been imported and TNSX configurations have been added for this project. Let's look at the project configurations. You can see that a TNSX configuration has been added for each of the TNSC configurations, debug and release. Also, the default or active configuration is still the debug configuration. Now let's have a look at the project properties. Since this is an ETK project, some ETK macros have been converted as NSDEE build variables. Now let's see how these macros have been resolved for TNSX configurations. You can see that the macros like configuration name and linker name, even target directory have resolved the values to the appropriate TNSX values. Environment variables have been set to the right TNSX values. COBOL linker options have also been set appropriately for TNSX. The deploy target file code is set to 500 as is the case with TNSX executables. Remote settings is the same as TNSC configuration. You need to update it to point to the TNSX system. The tool's location points to the TNSX cross-compiler. Now let's build the debug_TNSX configuration. The configuration has been built and the executable is created for TNSX configuration. The Create TNSX configuration option is also available in the Import NSDEE2.x project wizard. Now let's look at how this tool handles some scenarios. For example, here I have a project which has two TNSE configurations and two TNSX configurations. When we invoke the tool on such a project, let's see what happens. It throws a warning message which says that the configuration debug with C++ TNSX tools is not a TNSE configuration, hence cannot create a TNSX configuration. The same with configuration release with C++ TNSX tools. Now let's look at the list of configurations in this project. It has 6 configurations in all. Two TNSX configurations have been created for the two TNSE configurations, and the TNSX configurations have been left untouched. Now let's have a look at a scenario where we have a project on which the tool has already been invoked and the TNSX configurations have been created. What happens if we invoke the tool again? It throws an error saying that the configurations already exist. Now let's have a look at a scenario where we do not have any TNSE configurations and we have only some TNSX configurations in a project. An error is thrown saying that the project does not contain any TNSE configurations. Now let's see what happens if we invoke this tool without TNSX cross compilers being installed. It throws an error prompting the user to configure the TNSX cross compiler. The TNSX configurations will be created, but no cross compiler will be set for these configurations. You will have to manually configure them. Sometimes, while we are importing NSDEE 2.x projects, our location could also contain some standard make or makefile projects. When we import such projects with the option for Create TNSX configurations enabled, the tool throws an error saying cannot create TNSX configurations for makefile projects. Also, another point to note is that the tool will not take care of customizing for any user-defined build or environment variables for TNSX. These variables will continue to point to the locations mentioned in the TNSE configuration. You will have to manually update them. With this, we come to the end of this video on Create TNSX Configurations tool. Watch out for more videos on NSDE. Thank you.